So analyze the rhetorical devices used in Washington's appeal to both Southern whites and blacks. If you had come in and we said, hey, surprise, TWA, read, go, off you go. Let's see what you have. Any devices for sure you think you would use? Repetition. All right, so what are we looking for? What's repeating?
He uses the word cast
Uh-huh.
a lot.
Buckets.
Yeah, buckets. And also, when he is quoting stuff, like around the lines 25 and 30, he repeats the same thing.
Like
he's
the
quoting, and like it just changes like one word, and like
Yeah.
repeats it 2 or 3 times.
So like the water, we die of thirst.
Yeah.
Water, send us water.
And he
that
does
whole.
that on the other side too.
Mhm.
With some stuff.
And I mean, the biggest thing that he certainly is repeating throughout, or the most prominent thing that he is repeating throughout the whole entire speech is going to be cast down your bucket where you are. You know, right now it's just looking here in the second column, you know, all throughout here, certainly in the paragraph that you were talking about. And this would be one where you could put multiple things down for the device. You could say there's repetition, probably focusing on the cast down your bucket. Also using the cast down your bucket, I think another device that folks would use would be, not so much syntax, but you could go, and that would still be like with the syntax, like the anaphora, the repetition of it. I'm thinking of the figurative language thing. And not just like, if it were a one-time thing, certainly a metaphor, the fact that he keeps coming back to it over and over again, you would have an extended metaphor. Now, if Cade goes anaphora, you go repetition, you know, metaphor, extended metaphor, all four of you could still be very successful with the analysis. It's not that they're going to go, hey, Ben, you get it because you wrote extended metaphor. 8 for you, 5s for everyone else, and Ben's streak continues on, you know, as he works his way out of it. But it could still absolutely be very successful. So, repetition, extended metaphor. What's he mean when he says cast down your bucket?
It's like you don't have to look somewhere to find what you're looking for.
So, for African Americans in the South, why would that be important?
Because like they just want to be treated equal, and like saying like you can just become like who you want to be where you are.
Well, and I would say the one word there that you mentioned that could kind of get you in a little bit of trouble with the analysis would be equal. Is he looking for equal representation, like in government? Because he even says, you know, we made the mistake sometimes by asking for too much. Where it's not strange that in the first years of our new life, we began at the top instead of at the bottom. That a seat in Congress or state legislature was more sought than real estate or industrial skill. But basically now he's going, where are we willing to start?
I kind of disagree with you, because if you look at line like 93, it said, in all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand, and one thing is essential to mutual progress.
Yes. What's mutual progress?
You're both working towards the same goal. So, money.
What kind of progress? Who's he talking to?
Like people, like industrious, like.
This is the Cotton Expo. This is industrialization. This is we're looking for jobs, manufacturing, textile. Take a look, and this is an important example here that you mentioned, Sam. In all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers. So when a day's work is done, what can we do? This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. I know it's not piggy, but you know we'll go with that one. But we can be completely separate. But when it comes to all things that are essential to mutual progress, when we're talking about being able to literally work together, where how many millions of hands do you have here that could help you lift this load? 1/3 of the population, which he repeats that part over and over, you know, so there'd be more repetition there. And he talks nearly 16 million hands, so you got 8 million African Americans here. We will be able to help for mutual progress when it comes to economics, to money. So we are willing to start at the bottom. We're going to work our way up. If we prove that we are worthwhile from a business standpoint, from an employee standpoint, then down the road, what might happen, maybe some social progress integration could be made. So we'll be mutual as a hand, but when it comes to the social stuff, we're going to go off in our own separate ways. And he doesn't have a problem with that. Now, which some folks reading it will go, well, that sounds like a terrible idea, because basically you're advocating for segregation. What he's looking for, and you can say right or wrong, what he's looking for are baby steps. So if we can prove our merit financially, that we are useful, then maybe we'll get some more progression coming later on. Initially, there's not a whole lot of backlash from African American community. Within a few years, and you're going to read something from 1903 from W.E.B. Du Bois, you start to see that backlash does become a little bit more prominent. Context-wise, what is the date of this speech? 1895. Now, and it's not that necessarily Booker T. Washington would be thinking about this as he is giving it. What Supreme Court case is about to be ruled on in the next year that we discussed earlier? Not the schooling, well, not directly the schooling, but
Desegregation.
not D. Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896, is that separate but equal. So in the next year, the Supreme Court is going to go segregation is legal. Now, I wouldn't say Washington knows that that's going to be the ruling. That's why he's going to be saying this. But that would kind of be the climate. If we were doing a soapstone, and we're talking about the occasion, Plessy versus Ferguson, Jim Crow law, segregation, that would be something to mention.
So he's saying that he thinks it's wrong. Not wrong, but it's the incorrect move for African Americans to jump immediately from being slaves to trying to get seats in Congress, and he thinks that they should take their little tiny steps before they shoot for too much. Is that what he's asking for? He says they should take smaller steps and trying to work towards progress.
I think he realizes, and again, this isn't me going he's necessarily right or wrong. I think he realizes that in the South, it's not going to work out too well if you start asking for immediate equality. To end disenfranchisement where you have the inability to vote. His school, Tuskegee, does focus on academics, but it focuses on those practical skills. So if you can validate through basically if you work harder, you can eventually succeed. Right now, he's basically telling his people, fellow African Americans, we need to work hard. Now, so with the cast down your bucket, to African Americans that Sam was saying about, you have an opportunity right here. There's not a reason for mass exodus, mass flight to head up north or anything like that. We have an opportunity right here where we don't need to leave, where we can certainly make a difference. We can, try to cultivate friendly relations with the southern white man who is our next door neighbor. If we are able to support him, we're able to prove ourselves, good things are going to come down. So we can work in agriculture, mechanics, commerce, domestic service, in variety of professions.
Doesn't he think? I feel like it's wrong to think that white people will be okay with this.
So, I guess what do you mean by this?
In the sense that if a lot of them weren't okay with desegregating in the first place, what makes them think that they will be willing to give them jobs to work their way up the social ladder?
Well, and I think he does. Yeah, I mean, this isn't going to be immediately.
Is that why he says to work hard?
Well, yeah. This isn't going to be immediately welcomed by everyone. Cast down your bucket to African Americans. Stay here. There's opportunity. Also, who should cast down their bucket?
White people.
It should white people. And I realize we're not in A push like Emily is. Hi, Katie. Not here. I don't know if anyone else is taking A push. Well, yeah, in another land. In 1890s, 1880s, 1890s, what groups of people are now becoming big time components of the working force?
Black people.
Beyond, I'm thinking especially in the north. Immigrants. So like the Canes, wherever that 11th Cane is, he started working in a steel mill somewhere, or building railroads, or doing whatever the case may be. as you have an influx of people who are coming in, Irish, German, Slovaks, whatever the case may be, they kind of start at the bottom within the jobs, dangerous jobs, work their way up. What starts to happen, and this is true with any kind of probably businesses and depending upon how labor laws are with any country at this time, what starts to happen is people realizes these jobs are very dangerous. I'm going to be working in coal mines and all that kind of stuff.
They start to form like unions that want safer workspaces.
And then inevitably what also happens, like in Homestead, like in Chicago, as these unions build, they go on strike. All right? So, we're not going to strike. If you're having issues, and even mentions, if you're having problems with, people who speak foreign tongues, who are immigrants coming to this nation, you got 8 billion people right here who would just love to go to work. So that mutual beneficial, here's an opportunity. We want to work. You need people to work. And he even does a little bit of a what kind of appeal in this paragraph over here. Casting down your bucket among my people, helping and encouraging them as you're doing on these grounds to educate head, hand, heart, nice alliteration. You'll find that they will buy your surplus land, make blossom the waste places in your fields, and run your factories. While doing this, you can be sure in the future, as in the past, that you and your families will be surrounded by the most patient, faithful, law-abiding, and unresentful people that the whole world has seen. What does he mean right there?
Because he's going to be this. He's calling back to slavery.
He's hearkening back to slavery. He is alluding back to slavery. He's making an emotional appeal that in those years past, while we were enslaved, we were nurses, child care, all of those things for you and your family. We were patient, we were faithful, we're unresentful. Now's an opportunity where we can continue to show that in a more beneficial manner for all of us because, those days are no longer here. This is a very passive approach. And it's one where he's looking for a foothold to try to at least get some kind of spot within, economic success within the South, within the North, where if we can build upon that, then maybe a bigger, better, brighter future can take place. But I think it's understandable while reading it, you could go, I can see why some folks, W.E.B. Du Bois, that we'll talk about later, might not like this approach so much because it is a pretty passive one that he's looking for. But as you read chapter 1, or if you already read chapter 1, go back to the speech that he makes for his graduation. If you've already read that chapter, take a look at it. I think you should start to go, okay, I see what he's at least alluding to with it. Keep this piece of paper with you. We're going to do a in-class analysis with it tomorrow. We're going to do some writing. You're not going to come into the TWA. You're not going to be writing the TWA. But you certainly could be doing something with cast down your bucket. You could be doing something with repetition. You could be taking a look at the ethos that we have going on here, different types of alliteration, or even like the comparison that Sam was mentioning down here with essentially the hand simile that he references around line 90.
Remember, here's all the list. Would that be like a device too, like whatever he says in one of the paragraphs, like passing down agriculture, mechanics, and commerce, domestic service, or the first, he says materials, civil, and moral welfare.
Yeah, I think, and this really tends to be a strong characteristic with a lot of speeches. I know we don't really use this one a whole lot because with the fiction, but with nonfiction, I would say the details. And you could go in a couple directions. What you were just listening here with the agriculture, the mechanics, the commerce, the domestic service, all those different professions that are available. The fact that he also keeps going back to 1/3 of the population, 8 million, he says Negroes, African Americans, 16 million hands. Those are all details that could certainly be used to reinforce. And even what we were talking about here, without strikes and labor wars, tilled your fields, cleared your forests, built, I won't say build it, but built your railroads and cities, those could all be details that you can make reference to, the details of what's going on with labor strife at the time in the 1890s, and also details about what we've already done for you in the past. But But yeah, definitely that listing could be there. If you wanted, if you thought the syntax was reinforcing the way it's written with like a parallel structure or the alliteration, the significance of those things, you could certainly do that as well. But I think any of those things would be possible. My guess is the most common devices would probably be repetition, extended metaphor, kind of like an emotional appeal, and then like the details that you were mentioning. Certainly not the only ones, but I think if we were to do this as an essay at TWI, those would be those common ones.
Who's do you more agree with, the EB, Du Bois, or
Well, like, I mean, if you're talking, in 2019, I mean, this essentially seems like an extension of, well, maybe not slavery, at least Jim Crow laws, like you're allowing segregation to take place. If he were to come up in front of a essentially all-white audience in Atlanta, Georgia, and go, you know what, guys, it's time for equal rights.
he got killed.
He literally could have been lynched. So I understand the position that he's coming from.
It's situational.
It is, but it's a tough sell, depending upon what your family
He was already
history
risking it by even telling people that they should just get rid of slavery in the first place.
He's born into slavery. Du Bois is born 1865. It's on the packet, but he's like right after the Civil War. You too. He goes to Harvard. Like he has more of the formal, quote unquote, like northern kind of education. So it makes sense that he's more aggressive.
He's a northern.
He's not militant by any means, but he's looking for more, need change now kind of thing. Thank you. Appreciate it.